Hello, welcome to this Wolsey Hall Oxford Homeschooling Information webinar. We have families joining us from all around the world today, so a big welcome to you all. I'm Tamara Onslow, Senior Admissions Officer at Wolsey Hall. Just to let you know, we're recording this webinar and we'll send out a link of the recording to all of you via a Zoom email in a few days' time. You'll be able to rewatch the event and also to share it with your family and friends. The format for today will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. You will find a Q&A section where you can type your questions at the bottom of your screens. However, we would recommend that you wait until after the presentation before adding questions, as we expect many will be covered in the presentation itself. When it comes to the question section, please include the age of your child, their level of study, and your countries is also helpful so that we can tailor our answers accordingly. Please note that we will not be answering any questions that are specific to an individual child today. For these types of questions, please submit an inquiry form from our website, and our admissions team will get in touch to arrange an online meeting. Then you can discuss your child's studies in detail with them. We will be putting up the website address for the inquiry form at the end of the presentation. I'm joined here today by a number of colleagues, both from our admissions and academic teams, who will be answering questions in the typed Q&A area and also live in the discussions. Now I'd like to introduce Christine Armstrong, Head of Primary, and Ruth Young, Head of Secondary, who will start the presentation on Wolsey Hall Oxford.
Thank you, Tamara, and I'd like to just add my welcome to Tamara's to all of the parents and students that are joining us today for our information event. I'm Ruth, and the Head of Secondary, as Tamara said, at Wolsey Hall. Christine and I will be going through a detailed presentation to tell you all about Wolsey Hall Oxford, the courses that we offer and the support that your children can have when they enrol upon homeschooling courses with us. So to begin, to tell you a little bit about the accreditations that we have at Wolsey Hall. We're very proud that we are a Cambridge International School. We actually were the first online primary Cambridge school, and our Cambridge accreditation stretches all the way through from lower primary up to the A-level phase of Wolsey Hall. You may have heard of Cambridge Assessment International Education. They are a globally recognised examination board who provide curriculum across all of the age ranges that I've mentioned. And we are very happy to be part of this family. Cambridge is world recognised, and there are over 10,000 Cambridge schools. Alongside that, thousands of candidates sit external examinations such as IGCSE, AS and A-level with Cambridge Examination Board. We are also pleased to be a Pearson Virtual Centre. Now, this is another examination board, Pearson EdXL, and this allows us to offer, alongside our Cambridge courses, selected Pearson EdXL courses at GCSE level and A-level, both international and UK qualifications, which I'll talk a little bit more about within this presentation. Our courses blend our Cambridge curriculum, Pearson EdXL curriculum, alongside English National curriculum in the lower parts of Wolsey Hall, so primary and lower secondary, meaning that you as a homeschooling family can be assured that your child is following a structured, rigorous, challenging, and inspiring curriculum, no matter what stage of their studies they are at.
And a welcome from me as well. I'm Christine. I'm the Head of Primary here at Wolsey Hall. So just to start us off, I'll just tell you a tiny bit about Wolsey Hall. So Wolsey Hall has been around for a long time. It was founded in 1894. And as you can imagine, it looked very different in its early life, using the penny post service and scribing lectures from Oxford University and sharing those with people around the counties of Oxfordshire and beyond. We are incredibly proud of the progress that Wolsey Hall has made over its lifetime, and today we provide online full access courses to students all over the world. So we are currently serving students in 130 countries, and we are really very grateful to have the opportunity to help steer the educational journey of so many young people. So Wolsey Hall caters for students who are around 3.5 to 4 years old, if they're at the very beginning of their learning journey, all the way through to 18. So the full schooling is accessible via us here at Wolsey Hall. And we also have a number of mature students as well. Sometimes mums and dads get involved too, taking courses with Wolsey Hall as well, or those that are just looking to expand, in particular, their examinations at A-level and GCSE level, just to add to their CV, or they're looking to change their career path. So as you can imagine, having been around for so long, we have a huge alumni of Wolsey Hall students who have gone on to universities, colleges, they're in careers, and we really are incredibly proud of each and every student that has been part of the family here at Wolsey Hall. You may notice there is a photo on screen of Nelson Mandela, and we are very proud to be able to include him as an alumni of Wolsey Hall. But as I say, we have so many wonderful ex-Wolsey Hall students who have gone on to do extraordinary things, and we really are incredibly proud of them all.
To talk a little bit now about why you may choose Wolsey Hall as a homeschooling family. For us at Wolsey Hall, it's so important that each child is treated as an individual. The individual child is at the centre of all of our guidance and our advice, from the point that you submit an inquiry form and speak to our experienced admissions team, all the way through your child's studies. We truly believe in personalisation of learning for the individual. What does that mean in practice for you as a family? Well, essentially, this means that your child can study at the pace that suits them and at the level that suits them. In a mainstream school, a child would typically be placed in a year group dependent on their age. So a student who is 11 years old would typically in a mainstream school be studying in a year 7 class. This means that all of the subjects they are studying would be at year 7 level. With Wolsey Hall, we look at things slightly differently. We appreciate that children progress at different rates in their academics, and therefore we are able to offer our homeschooling families the opportunity to pick the level of course for their child at that particular point when they enroll. So we have students who perhaps are year 7 age, studying some subjects at year 7, but they perhaps are advanced in one particular area and therefore are able to study those subjects at year 8 level. We also have students who, for different reasons, perhaps feel the need to consolidate a lower level of study. So they're studying year 7 courses in English, maths and science, but they feel the need to consolidate learning done in history, for example, at a lower level, and they would then study history perhaps at a year 5 or a year 6 level. This enables us to guide parents with their homeschooling children to create a bespoke portfolio of subjects for their children to study with Wolsey Hall. We do this via a combination of different methods during the admissions stage. We obviously have conversations with you as a homeschooling family, and we have ready quizzes for students to take when to assess the best fit for them. So I hope that gives you an insight into that individualized approach that we give. Something else with Wolsey Hall that's important to note is we don't operate to one standard academic year. So in the Northern Hemisphere, academic years typically start August, September time. Southern Hemisphere might be January time. We don't subscribe to either of those models at Wolsey Hall, enabling students to start the courses when they are ready to start them and that suit your individual family circumstances. So your child's progress is very much on an individual level based on your individual circumstances. Other reasons why you might choose to study with Wolsey Hall. As I'm sure you're aware, there is a huge amount of noise in the marketplace surrounding resources, activities that students can complete online for education. With Wolsey Hall, when you enroll on one of our courses, as I mentioned before, you can be assured that you're following a structured curriculum that is underpinned by the English National Curriculum and Cambridge and Pearson EdXL where applicable. You know that your child is studying the correct content in order to make the expected progress in that particular stage of their studies. And as they progress through the phases of Wolsey Hall, you know as a parent that they are studying in a way that is going to prepare them effectively for external examinations at IGCSE, AS and A level. As Christine mentioned, Wolsey Hall has been around for a very long time, and we have developed the methods with which we use to work with our families. So we pride ourselves on establishing a strong partnership with our parents and our students with the key members of the Wolsey Hall team.
Thank you, Ruth. So just to start us off, I thought it would be useful just to take you through the phases of Wolsey Hall so that you can see where your child might fit in terms of the starting point for their learning journey. We begin in primary and we have lower primary, and that covers 3 year groups. So it's getting ready for year 1, so a pre-primary level, year 1 and year 2. Now, typically, if you were in a mainstream school, the age range for this phase would be 4 years old through to 7 years old. So that's what we're kind of looking at in lower primary. Then you move on to upper primary, and upper primary covers 4 year groups. So it covers year 3, year 4, year 5, and year 6. And again, if you were to equate this to a mainstream school setting, then the students in this phase would typically be 7 years old when they enter upper primary, and they would be exiting at 11 years old. And at 11 years old, they move on to secondary. And our secondary is broken down into different phases. So it starts with lower secondary, and lower secondary covers 3 year groups of study. So it's year 7, year 8, and year 9. And in a mainstream school, this would be students who enter at 11 years old in year 7, all the way through to 14 years old when they finish year 9. And at this point, we enter the examination phases of Wolsey Hall. So we switch from 1 year programs of study, so from getting ready for year 1 all the way through to year 9, each course is the equivalent of 1 academic year of study in a mainstream school. When we reach GCSE and IGCSE phase, we are looking at 2 year courses, so 2 year programs of study. So the first phase represents years 10 and 11 in a mainstream school, and typically children would be 14 when they enter this phase of schooling, and then they would be taking their examinations at 16 years old. On taking these examinations, IGCSEs, GCSEs, the results of those would help them to identify the pathway for the next examination phase. And this is the A-level phase of Wolsey Hall. So this is known as years 12 and 13. And in a mainstream school setting, this is for students who are 16 to 18 years old when they complete this phase. And again, it's a 2-year program of study that you join and enroll onto that lead to external examinations at the end of it. But Ruth will talk more about those in a minute. And at that point, that is the end of your journey with Wolsey Hall, and your student or your child at this point will be moving on to university or to college, or perhaps going into employment. So I hope that helps just to figure out where your child would sit as perhaps a starting point discussion when you reach out to the admissions team.
So how our courses work. I'm going to give you now an overview of the structure of courses in both primary and secondary and what you can expect from a Wolsey Hall course. All of our courses exist on our Canvas learning platform. A little bit later in the presentation, you're going to see a video where there is a glimpse of the Canvas learning platform, and you can see the sort of way that our courses are presented. This is a secure, password protected platform for your child to access all of the materials that they need for their homeschooling studies. And we have a structure in place from the point that you speak to our admissions team to enroll, to allow a smooth start and familiarization with our courses, so your child is ready to begin their studies. So when you speak to our admissions team to review the best fit for your child, the level at which they're studying, the combination of subjects, you will in this process identify the point at which you wish your child to have access to our Canvas learning platform. This we term as your access date. On this date, or just before, your child will be added to their academic courses and non-academic courses that are part of our Wolsey Hall homeschooling system. The non-academic courses are there simply for you to inform yourself as an observer on the courses and your child on items such as how to get the most out of your studies. If you're studying in the exam year, an exams information course, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, a course that allows secondary students to know how to correctly reference their work and to use resources correctly in their work. And this period of time we term as the orientation period. So your child can be familiar with the structure, meet some key people at Wolsey Hall, such as their student progress manager and tutor. Christine's going to talk a little bit more in detail about those two roles later on in the presentation, so that when they come to start their studies, they are all set. Our courses in primary and secondary are structured slightly differently to take into account the age of the child that is studying. So in primary, our courses are written to the parents. They are designed to be led by the parents because as you can imagine, in the Getting Ready for Year 1 course, the age of children studying that, they are just taking their first steps on their educational journey, and they are yet to develop those independent learning skills that, for example, an IGCSE child would have further on down the line. So our primary courses include lesson plans for parents, guidance as to how to coach and mentor your child through these courses in order for them to make that expected progress. In the secondary courses, the focus shifts slightly to recognise that the children in lower secondary have built up those skills, that autonomy, that ability to study more independently. And the courses are written to students in student-friendly language so that they are able to take more ownership over their studying as they progress. Saying that, we would always recommend that there is a responsible adult to support and guide even a secondary age child on their courses. We do believe, and data does suggest as well, that children learn best when they are sharing that learning with others, and that it would be a responsible adult at home just to be asking and prompting questions for the child to reflect upon their learning, and to consolidate the work that they have done. Our courses are online, as Christine mentioned, but they are a blend of offline and online learning. So the majority are supplemented with textbooks, which can obviously be used offline, although some courses do have digital textbooks as well. And then there are practical activities for students to be completing, because we don't believe that children learn best if they are purely in front of a screen 100% of the time. Therefore, our courses incorporate practical activities. So, for example, at-home science experiments that you can safely carry out with materials that are easily found, and your child is therefore able to take a break from the screen and do some activities that involve different types of skills. And you'll see some examples of this later on in some of our videos. Our courses are separated into lessons in primary and modules in secondary. Within these lessons, there are various different activities, such as the practical ones I mentioned, but also interactive and self-marking activities as well, that allow students to really track their progress and see how they are making, what strides they are making with the content that they are covering. There are no online lessons with Wolsey Hall to attend, which means you can create a timetable that suits you as a family for your studies. Instead, our courses have videos to allow students to progress at their own pace as well. So as opposed to schooling, mainstream schooling or other online schooling that offers synchronous live lessons, your child really is in the driving seat in terms of the pace that they study at. So they can review a video and move at their own pace. So if they find something easy, they can move more quickly. They aren't held back by a class. Conversely, if they find a particular topic challenging, it means that they can take that time needed to review and to complete additional activities, rather than, again, being moved on at the pace with all other students. This links back to that previous slide where I was talking about that individualization and bespoke learning. At the end of modules and lessons, there are milestones called assignments for your child to complete. And before a child completes an assignment, which are developmental and formative, there is a quiz, which is self-marking, to allow them to, again, reflect on the learning that they have done. Some of the key takeaways for you as people considering homeschooling with Wolsey Hall is the fact that our courses are designed to be flexible, to fit with your timetable. They are portable in that they can be taken with you wherever you go. You can work with our team to set a study timetable that suits your circumstances. So you may be traveling and want to take, you may not want your child to submit assignments for a little while. That can all be factored in. And the key thing is that your child is studying at the pace that suits them, and that they are submitting their assignments to their tutors at the pace that best suits their individual circumstances and abilities.
So just to talk a little bit more about the support for families, we have two key personnel at Wolsey Hall that will be instrumental in supporting you and your child through your learning journey with Wolsey Hall. So the first is our tutors. So our tutors are all UK qualified teachers with years of experience. And Ruth just mentioned that on our courses, there are milestone assignments at incremental points all the way through the course. And you as a family or your child as the student, depending on the age, will be submitting those assignments via our learning platform. And although the word assignment sounds very formal, assignments can be a range of things depending on the age of the child and the level of study that's taking place. So assignments might be something written, it might be something recorded, it might be creative and artistic, it might be presenting. So there are a range of different things that constitute an assignment with Wolsey Hall. Your tutors are the key people who will be marking those assignments as qualified teachers. So they will mark each assignment, they will give you some annotations on the work itself, they will identify the strengths that they can see in the assignment, and absolutely key is they will provide some next steps and top tips for learning for your child to continue to make progress. So depending on the level and the course and the age, then there are also virtual meetings that are offered by your tutor at certain points during the course as well, so that you can have a face-to-face catch up about the assignment if that is needed. And really importantly, your tutors are available on the learning platform. So via Canvas Messenger, you can reach out to your tutor at any time with any questions or queries or advice that you are looking for, and they will reply to you via the learning platform. So the key thing about the tutors as well is that you may have several tutors. So depending on how many subjects you're studying with Wolsey Hall and the level of study, then you could have multiple tutors. So for example, if you are studying IGCSEs in 7 different subjects, then you will have 7 tutors. You will have a teacher specialist in every subject that you are taking. If you are lower down the school and your child is perhaps 5 years old, 6 years old, and you're studying maths and English with Wolsey Hall, then you may have 1 tutor so that it is easier and more comfortable for your child to get to know their tutor with Wolsey Hall, but who still has the level of expertise and qualifications to support your child. So that's how it works with our tutors. But the other key person supporting you as a family is your Student Progress Manager, or SPM. And your SPM is the first person that will reach out to you once you have finished the enrolment process with Wolsey Hall, and they will arrange a call to meet with you. During that call, they will find out more about you. They will give you key information about studying with Wolsey Hall. They will help to create that assignment schedule to make sure and to help you as a family keep on track with the assignments throughout the duration of learning with Wolsey Hall. And they will be monitoring your child's studies across all of their subjects. So they will be checking in and identifying how your child is getting on across the 2 subjects they may be taking, the 5 subjects, the 10 subjects they might be taking with Wolsey Hall. And they will reach out to you on a regular basis to find out how it's going. So your student, if they're an older member of Wolsey Hall, or you as the parent, if your child is a younger member of Wolsey Hall, to see how you are getting on and whether they can help. And they are available via email anytime to answer any questions or queries that you may have. So they're also the first point of contact for information. So any information you require or any information you would like to share. So if you're going on holiday and that hasn't been shared with Wolsey Hall already, then you can reach out and let your SPM know, and your SPM will share that information with the tutor team that is supporting your child. So you have welcome calls, not only with your SPM, but also as well with all of your tutors right at the beginning of your course as well. So you have the opportunity to meet virtually both your teachers or tutors, I should say, and your SPM as well. So between the SPM, the tutor, the parents, and the student, there is an umbrella of support for students moving through Wolsey Hall courses. So I'd like to introduce you to Abdullah. Abdullah is part of the primary phase here at Wolsey Hall, and he's just going to share with you a little bit about his Wolsey Hall day.
Hi, I'm Abdullah. I'm from Singapore. I study in Wolsey Hall Oxford doing year 3 and 4. We live near the sea and this makes us enjoy the nature along with my studies. A typical day for me would be studying, playing, swimming, and spending lots of time with my family. I study maths and English from year 4 and geography, science, and computing from year 3. The day begins with printing out the lesson plans for the day, and after my mom explains them, I do the exercises on my own. Along with the exercises, I also sit with the computer to do activities online provided by Wolsey Hall Oxford. The online activities are interactive and it helps me to do the subjects like a game, and it's very interesting to me. Along with my regular studies, I get crafting activities from science and geography which gives me peace of mind, and I take great interest in doing so. My favorite game indoors is to play with building blocks. I love to color when I'm sitting idle. My mom prints out coloring pages and I love to spend my time coloring them. After studying 1 or 2 subjects, I go out to the playground with my brothers. Homeschooling has been an amazing experience as I finish my studies in time and get plenty of time to do self-development and build a memorable childhood.
So I hope you enjoyed meeting Abdullah there. So just a couple of key things to mention from that video. So you heard him mention his mum. So Abdullah is very independent, and although he's printing out some activities that they'll be doing from a few of the lessons, he does recognize that he needs to go through that with his mum first to make sure that he is approaching the learning in the right way. He mentioned that he is doing some year 3 and year 4 levels of study with Wolsey Hall. So he's able to set a couple of those subjects at the level that's right for him, which is the year group above his age-related year group if he was in a mainstream school. It's lovely to see him doing both online and offline activities. So you can see at one point he was working on his maths from his textbook. He had a crafting activity from science to help with some of the scientific learning. And you could see that he had set the timetable with his family to suit them. So in his case, he studies a couple of subjects and then he goes out to play with his siblings. So they have that flexibility to decide how they are going to set their timetable each day to cover the courses, but in a way that suits them as a family. So just moving on from that, just want to share what subjects are available at the primary level for those of you who have children at the primary age or the primary level. So we have 2 getting ready for year 1 courses. So these are pre-primary courses, and we have one in both English and in maths. Just to say that all courses from getting ready for year 1 through to year 9, just a reminder, they are the equivalent of 1 academic year of study in a mainstream school. So the Getting Ready for Year 1 courses cover 1 year of pre-primary learning before you move on to primary. At years 1 and 2, we have English, Maths and Science that are identified in blue, just to show that these are considered to be the core subjects. So one might argue that these are the most important subjects, that it's certainly perceived as that here in the UK, of English, Maths and Science. And we have some other subjects as well to give you a breadth of learning across lower primary. So if you are a keen linguist, we have French courses, we have art courses for those that are creative. We have Skills for Life, which is a lovely series of courses which focus on personal development, relationships, emotions, and those types of things that are so incredibly important to understand as you are growing up. We also have music available, and we have humanities as well. And humanities is geography and history combined. So if you were to take year 1 humanities or year 2 humanities, it gives you access to some international history and some international geography to develop those skills. Once you move on to upper primary, you can see that there is consistency in these subjects as you move through the primary setting. So English, Maths and Science continue in years 3 to 6, but we do break down humanities into its discrete subjects at this point. So we have history and we have geography. We also as well have the introduction of computing at year 3 as well. And the computing focuses on those early aspects of coding and programming development that are such an integral part of the world today. We also have at upper primary English as a second language. So English as a second language is an option as the equivalent of 1 academic year of study, is an option for any students who perhaps haven't yet acquired the level of English language needed to go directly onto the first language English courses. So if you're not sure whether your child would be better off on the second language course or on the first language English course, then please do talk to the admissions team and they can help guide and suggest which might be the better option as a starting point.
So we're going to move on to look at the courses on offer in secondary, but first I'd like you to meet Steph, an IGCSE student. You'll get a glimpse of Canvas, the learning platform, and also an idea of how she works through the courses to complete her Wolsey Hall assignments at this level.
Well, hi, I'm Steph, a student that does IGCSEs at Wolsey Hall, and I'm here to show you my steps to preparing and completing an assignment.
Step 1. Canvas.
This is the app or website where you're going to get all the information and material you need to learn for your subjects. It is your ultimate learning source. On Canvas, you can do your modules and quizzes, turn your assignments in, receive your assignment marks, and message your tutors for any help. Canvas will be your best friend.
Step 2. Modules.
Every subject contains more or less 9 modules. Every module consists of topics where it gives you tasks you need to complete. Most module work will require you to read some pages, do various questions, and jot down some notes. For my first topic in Economics Module 5, I will need to work through pages 124 to 125 in my course book. Then I'll need to write out some key points, and then I'm gonna have to check out this website they have linked. I usually like to note down any new definitions that I've just learned into my notebook, and I also write down any extra information that I need to remember.
Step 3. Quizzes.
At the end of each module, there is a quiz that awaits to be completed. This quiz is there to test your knowledge from what you've just learned. These quizzes are usually multiple choice, which makes it quite easy and super fun. It is definitely a great way to revise for your upcoming assignment, as you can retake them as many times as you want.
Step 4. Revision and preparation.
Before doing the assignments, it is important to revise and review everything you have just learned one last time. You can even do the quiz once more to make sure that you are fully prepared to do the assignment. Right before I start my assignment, I like to organize my desk space. I put out my assignment, my notebook, and a pen. And if I need to use my computer, I put that out as well.
Step 5. Assignments.
Now it's time to start. Every assignment has an instruction page where it will instruct you to either complete it under exam conditions or if it is an open book assignment. It will also show the recommended time limit, however you don't need to follow this as it is just an assignment. On my Economics Assignment 5 instructions, it says that I need to write on lined paper using a black pen. It also further says to upload your work on Canvas. However, it doesn't say anything about working in exam conditions, so this is an open book assignment. After I finished my assignment, I scan it on an app called Cam Scanner and then send it directly on Canvas.
Step 6. Marks and feedback.
Usually, marks and feedback from your tutor will be given back to you within a week. The feedback you get from your tutor is very helpful as it tells you what you've done correctly and what you must improve on. With the feedback, you also get the specimen answers sheet, which gives all the answers to the assignment. And to make the most of my feedback, I do the questions that I've gotten wrong once more. This is just to make sure that I've understood the module and won't do the same mistake twice.
Talk about the actual course subjects on offer in the 3 different phases of secondary. Just a couple of points from Steph's video. I think it's really clear the independence with which she is working through her IGCSE courses. And this is part and parcel of being a Wolsey Hall student in terms of they are skills that are naturally built into all of the courses, all the way through from primary, all up into the A-level phase of the school. So students acquire this independence via the activities that they're completing, the way in which the courses are designed, so that they are then, when they are reaching those external examined phases of Wolsey Hall, able to approach their studies very methodically, in an organised fashion, taking on board the feedback that their tutors give and reviewing and reflecting as to their next steps in their learning to gain the best possible outcome in those examinations. The other thing to note is the assignments that you saw a little glimpse of, a couple of them there in the video. When we get into the IGCSE, AS and A-level phases of Wolsey Hall, they are all in the style of examination questions to make sure that students are fully prepared for taking external exams. Whilst, as Steph said, there's a time limit, but don't worry, it's just an assignment. As Christine mentioned, they're not designed to be scary for students. They are designed to show what they have learned and to practice skills that they'll need in their external exams in a safe environment that is very supportive to build that confidence. Again, that means as a parent, you know, the assessments that their ongoing assessment throughout all their courses is building up to those external examinations so that they aren't suddenly shocked by what they're seeing on the exam paper in front of them. So anyway, I digress slightly. Let's look at the courses. So in lower secondary, we have a range of courses on offer to allow all Wolsey Hall students to pick a breadth of subjects, because this is an ideal time to build that really strong foundation for the higher levels of study. Similarly to primary, our core subjects are coloured in blue. So we have English as a second language, as in upper primary, maths and science. These are considered to be vital subjects and absolute key foundation subjects for IGCSE study, as well as building up to A-level. They provide a huge amount of content and skill development that students are going to need no matter what courses they are taking. We then have a range of other courses on offer. Just to tease out a little bit of detail here, we offer a history course and an international history course. Our history course is generally UK and European history centric. Our international history course focuses on civilizations around the world. Both of these courses are a pathway to the IGCSE history. So you can take one of them and still be content that your child will be fully prepared to take the IGCSE history if desired at a later point. We broadened out the range of languages on offer in lower secondary, so students can pick from French, German and Spanish. These courses are all ab initio, meaning they do not need to have studied it previously. However, if they have taken the primary French course, it means that they're able to progress slightly quicker through the beginning of the Year 7 French course, as it will be revision rather than new material. We also have computing and digital literacy in lower secondary. The computing course is very much a preparation for computer science. So it is designed to focus on programming, things like Python, and different sorts of programming elements that they will require for their computer science studies. Whereas digital literacy is more about how we use technology in our everyday lives and learning how to use it in a non-programming area. So looking at the impact of artificial intelligence on the work that we're doing, using things like Excel, PowerPoint, etc. So it's more closely linked perhaps to the old style ICT that used to exist within schools, whereas computing is more computer science. We then have our creative courses of art and music. For the music, there is a requirement that students do play an instrument, but further details of that can be found on the website. We're often asked how many subjects at lower secondary a child should be taking. Again, that does depend on your individual circumstances. We would always recommend a minimum of 5, incorporating sort of those the core subjects of English, maths and science. To put it into context, in a mainstream school, a student would be studying 12 or 13 subjects in Year 7, Year 8 and Year 9. This would incorporate items like DT, sport, etc. That's not to say you need to study 12 subjects at lower secondary. The one thing to be thinking about when you're choosing your courses in lower secondary is what steps are you going to look at later? What IGCSEs is your child thinking that they might study? What A levels are they looking at? Because lower secondary is that first building block to build that content knowledge and the skills needed for the higher levels. Our admissions team are obviously on hand to talk you through that entire process when you do submit an inquiry. So you're not left alone in that sort of guidance section either. Following lower secondary after Year 9, we move into the external examination years. So to talk a little bit about how that works for Wolsey Hall students. We're a virtual online organisation. However, external examinations currently are taken in person. Therefore, all of our Wolsey Hall students studying IGCSEs, AS and A-level examinations take their examinations at a physical exam centre that is local to them where available. So they enter their examinations as a private candidate. Exam centres might be a specific organisation that is an exam centre. It may equally be a school that offers the opportunity for private candidates to take their exams there. So examination timetables are published by Cambridge and Pearson Edexcel. These are set by them, not by Wolsey Hall. So on the day that your child has one of their examinations, they would go physically to the chosen exam centre where you have registered and booked your private exams, and they would go into an examination room and take their examinations there. It would also be through this examination centre that you apply for access arrangements if your child needs typing dispensation or additional time due to learning needs. Now, this for Wolsey Hall parents is something we are very keen to support with as best we can. So we have a UK examinations officer and an international examinations officer who can help you in terms of registering at an exam centre and booking your exams, because we understand that it can be quite new to our homeschooling parents in terms of dealing with examination codes. So we provide you with the support there. You also, when you enter the secondary phase of Wolsey Hall, are added to a course on Canvas called Exams Information. And this includes a spreadsheet of examination centres around the world that do accept private candidates as far as we are aware. So some of them we have partnerships with, others it is schools that accept private candidates. One thing to note is if you do live remotely, or in particular areas of a country, you may find the need to travel to an exam centre to take your exams. But again, our admissions team and your SPM will be able to help you with that when you enrol for your examinations. When the examinations have been taken at the centre, the papers are sent physically to the marker, who is from Cambridge or Pearson Edexcel. When they have been marked and moderated, the results are then released to the exam centre and to you as a private candidate, and you will receive your statement of results directly from the examination board. This statement of results is globally recognised, as are the certificates, by universities and employers around the world. So I hope that helps to give a bit of an overview of the examination phases, and I'll now talk about the subjects that we have on offer. So looking at our IGCSE. IGCSE stands for International General Certificate of Secondary Education. GCSE, General Certificate of Secondary Education, it's just without the I. The international element of it means that these are our Cambridge courses and they are designed with an international cohort of students in mind. So there is less UK-centred context within an IGCSE. You'll notice here that our core subjects have somewhat exploded at IGCSE. This is to allow all students to pick that bespoke pathway that suits them. So we offer English language and English as a second language. It's important to think about at this point the next stage as well in terms of picking your English course. English language, the first language course, will lead on naturally to discursive A levels such as English literature, English language, psychology, sociology, politics, etc. English as a second language is a fantastic qualification, and it leads naturally on to, say, more mathematical or science studies at A level. Again, our admissions team will be able to talk to you about that during the inquiry process. We then have two different maths courses on offer. The key maths course that we would always advise students to take is the one simply entitled Maths. It exists at two tiers, extended and core. Extended means students are able to access all grades up to grade 9 or A star. And then at core level, they are able to gain up to a grade C. So a core level maths qualification is a fantastic qualification for all students who are not looking to do maths or science A levels. It will give them the level 2 maths qualification universities and employers look for without overstretching. So you have those choices. The additional maths is really for our keen mathematicians who are looking at further maths A level. We then have a range of science qualifications. I'm just going to give a quick overview because I know a lot of parents do like to know the difference here. We have our single sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. These are very in-depth qualifications. We would advise that you take 2 of the 3 as a minimum to give a solid science IGCSE level. And each of those leads to 1 IGCSE. So if you take all 3, you would have 3 science IGCSEs, 1 in biology, 1 in chemistry, and 1 in physics. This is wonderful if your child is truly passionate about science and looking at studying a science A level. For students who perhaps want to keep their options a bit more open, they might do science A level, but they also are not too sure. Coordinated sciences is there for them. And this is a qualification where you still study all 3 sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, but slightly less content, and it leads to 2 IGCSEs. Again, providing a pathway to A level, but also allowing them perhaps to pick up additional IGCSEs to have a broader range of subjects at this level. The coordinated sciences is typically what is taught in UK mainstream education, although it may be known as combined sciences just due to terminology. But the coordinated science with us is a 2 GCSE qualification. We then also offer a combined sciences IGCSE. Again, students study all 3 sciences, but it leads to 1 IGCSE. This is a great qualification for students wanting a science level 2 IGCSE, but knowing that they're not going to go down the route of science studies later on. So I hope that gives you a bit of an overview of the sciences. You then have multiple option subjects to pick and choose from in terms of creating that portfolio of courses. In terms of number of subjects, we would always recommend a minimum of 5, including English, maths and science. But typically, if your child is looking to apply to higher education, you would be looking more at between 8 and 11 IGCSEs, dependent on the chosen pathway later on, to create a much broader range of subjects studied at this level, as that is what universities are often looking for in terms of that. We then move on to the AS and A-level courses. As Christine mentioned, a full A-level is a 2-year programme of study. For our subjects that are with Cambridge, it's divided into year 1, year 2, where students take exams at the end of year 1, which are AS, and exams at the end of year 2, which when added together make the full A-level. Typically, students at this level study between 3 and 4 subjects over the 2 years. So they're really specialising in the subjects that they're choosing. It's really important to look at the entry requirements for A-level. These are published on our website, so you can check those out at your leisure to see what the prior requirements from IGCSE are. So, for example, a student who wishes to study history at A-level, we would have expected them to have studied history IGCSE in order to have that knowledge base to build on for their A-level studies. A-level is a very rigorous and challenging programme of study, but so worthwhile and valued by students. It allows them to really dig into those subjects that they are truly passionate about and gain qualifications to allow them to take the next step in their education or indeed their career pathway. So I hope that gives you a bit of an overview of the subjects on offer in those 2 areas. I'll pass back to Christine at this point.
Thank you. So following on from the subjects, now you know about the courses, the subjects we offer, etc. Just to mention that there are a few additional things that you can access through Wolsey Hall if you are looking for that extra layer of support. So these services here are paid for services, but you can have peace of mind that Wolsey Hall can offer these to you as a family of a homeschooling child. So we have learning support and wellbeing services. So if you do have a need for that, then we certainly, your SPM can put you in touch with learning support. Likewise, if you make an inquiry and you feel like you may need some further support for your child, you can discuss that at the admissions stage, and if needed, but we can put you in touch with learning support to have that initial discussion to see if that's the case. We also offer career and university advice. So often the pathway can feel a little bit daunting of how to get from where you currently are along the right pathway for your child to enter the university or the career of their choice by having the right qualifications for that. So the Career and University Advice Service is a fantastic additional service that we provide to help guide and assist those families that are seeking some support in making sure that the pathway and the journey is right for their child. And we also have reference services as well. A lot of university or college applications require references, and Wolsey Hall can help provide those references that are needed to support applications. So I'm not going into huge detail about that, but just that's more just a really letting you know that we have these services as well to support that learning journey more holistically than just your child's subjects and courses.
And to finish the presentation, just to share with you that it isn't just about the academics. Whilst Christine and I have spent the majority of this presentation talking about the courses on offer and how they work, at Wolsey Hall, we are committed to the holistic education of the child. So we provide different ways for children to engage in different activities outside of the academic sphere. So we have a student community, both in primary and secondary, with different clubs that students become part of, such as a Lego club, a chess club, debate club, book club, so that students can engage with homeschoolers at Wolsey Hall within our student community and engage in different challenges that take them away from their maths and science work, for example, just to add that different element and give a social context to it as well. In secondary, we also have a secondary student forum. Again, this is moderated, password protected for students of Wolsey Hall so that they can talk to each other about topics of interest to them. So it might be, what they've been to see at the cinema recently or the book that they've been reading. Again, just a different element to add to your child's homeschooling studies. And this is all part and parcel of a Wolsey Hall course portfolio when you enroll with us. We also stay connected with our families via primary newsletters and very active Facebook groups. So you are able as a parent to connect with other homeschooling Wolsey Hall parents. So at this point, I'm going to pass back to Tamara for the Q&A part.
Hello, thank you very much, Christine and Ruth. So please feel free to ask any questions you have by typing them into the Q&A area, which you can find at the bottom of your screens. Please do let us know the age of your child and their level of education so that we can tailor our responses. It's also always helpful if we know the country that you're living in as well. We'll answer as many questions as possible in the time available. However, if there are any questions you still have after the event, please send in an inquiry form via our website, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. We will also introduce some of your questions into the live discussion now. So I'll start away. So the first question I have, does Wolsey Hall provide any evidence of a student's studies? I think that's probably relevant at both primary and secondary.
Yes, absolutely. So on completion of any course that you're taking with Wolsey Hall, there is a report at the end of it that shows the grade averages, etc., from your studies when you studied with Wolsey Hall. So this is great evidence to keep of your child's studies. It's useful if you have to show local education authorities or ministries that your child is studying and what curriculum they're covering, etc. So yes, there are reports at primary. There are some progress reports you get as well, just to help with those milestones with the children being that much younger, that they can be shown to show that they're making good progress on their course too. So yes, absolutely, there are reports given at the end of the course so that you have evidence of your child's studies. And of course, at the beginning, you get a statement of enrolment as well, which is often used as proof of study as needed by the families.
I've got nothing further to add to that. The same applies in secondary.
Great, thank you. Okay, for science, are there any home experiments that need to be completed? This question was from a secondary student's family, but applies across the board.
Sure. If I start with secondary, at lower secondary, yes, there are science experiments to be carried out at home. These are all purposely designed for home use. So they use items that you'll find around the home. So for example, you might need to boil some water in a kettle. You might need a set of weighing kitchen scales. And they are structured so that the instructions are really easy to follow for parents and students at home, and they can be carried out safely. Saying that, if at any point a student or a family has a problem sourcing materials for their experiment, then we simply encourage them to reach out to their tutor, who may be able to provide alternatives, because our tutors are really experienced in helping our homeschoolers get the most out of these experiments. And if that isn't possible, then there are other alternatives. So for example, on the courses, we've provided worked examples of the experiments. When we get into the higher levels of secondary, there are opportunities for carrying out practical activities. However, as I'm sure people can appreciate, once we get to A level, we might be looking at experiments that require specific safety equipment, which we wouldn't necessarily have at home. So let's think A-level chemistry. People aren't going to have a fume cupboard at home. So we make sure that the courses themselves incorporate videos or online versions of these experiments, so students can still understand them, understand the data that they are producing, because generally at that level, students are assessed on the application of data from the practical, not carrying out the practical themselves, if that makes sense. So that's
and what Ruth said about lower secondary in terms of at-home experiments, it's the same for primary, in that there are investigations and experiments to carry out at home with either using either equipment that you may already have in your household, or that would be pretty easy to source locally. But we give you an equipment list so that you can have a look right from the start to see if there's any items that perhaps you don't have at home, so you've got plenty of time to source them locally.
Brilliant, thank you very much. How do you know when a child is ready to study at GCSE level? We've had a couple of other questions that relate to other levels of study as well. So how do we, help families to find the right level?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of looking at the GCSE or IGCSE entry point, parents can have a look at the website in terms of prior study requirements for the individual GCSE subjects. Typically, an IGCSE would expect the lower secondary curriculum of years 7, 8 and 9 to have been studied in order to provide the best possible pathway onto an IGCSE. Now, we recognise at Wolsey Hall, we have students, as Christine said, from all around the world coming to us with all sorts of different educational backgrounds. So they may not have studied the Cambridge or the UK curriculum previously. So we have ready tests for a number of our IGCSE subjects that we can use, so you can see if your child is IGCSE ready, or whether they would benefit from perhaps fast tracking the year 9 lower secondary course in that particular subject area. So we do take pains to ensure that we are setting children up for success when enrolling them on IGCSE courses. Broadly speaking, a lower secondary or equivalent curriculum for IGCSE study would be sort of the broad range of advice at that point, though, Tamara, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And at other levels, we obviously have ready tests and placement checks as well to help us to assess that.
Yeah. And conversations with a member of the admissions team as well that is experienced and can help. So, the role of Wolsey Hall is to guide, we're armed with the information that it can gauge from the family and from the student. It's to guide you to the right starting point. If you found that you started on a course and you were finding it a little bit too difficult, or you were finding it too easy, then there is a 45-day window to make a change to that level. So as best as possible, Wolsey Hall will try and guide you to the right starting point so that you're not having to change a course level.
Brilliant, thank you. Is it possible for a student to study towards a GCSE exam in only 1 year?
Logistically speaking, yes. I would always put a caveat on that to say that a GCSE or indeed an IGCSE are designed to be studied over 2 academic years, due to the level of content that is contained and the skills that students need to acquire and then learn to apply effectively for their external exams. However, it depends on individual circumstances. So for some students, if they're studying a small loading of IGCSEs due to their individual circumstances, perhaps only taking 2, then yes, they have the time to study those in 1 year because they're able to consecrate more study time to those levels. That's something that I would always recommend talking to our admissions team about, because they'll be able to advise on feasible study timelines. So logistically, yes, there's a few caveats that might apply though.
Great, thank you. What are the differences between a UK and an international A-level?
Okay, so it's quite an in-depth answer, so I'll try and summarise as far as possible. We offer A-levels from Cambridge and Pearson Edexcel. Cambridge A-levels are all international A-levels, and they function in a year 1, year 2 system. So for Cambridge, you can study what we call the AS content in your first year, the year 12 year, and take examinations and receive an AS grade result. You can then continue studying for your second year, year 13, taking further examinations, and the AS results and A-level results, A2 results as it used to be called, are added together to form your overall A-level. Now that is a Cambridge International A-level. I'm drawing the distinction because at Pearson Edexcel, we have both UK A-levels and international A-levels, but they function slightly differently. So a Pearson UK A-level is a linear A-level. So if you enroll on our Biology UK course, you will need to make the decision, is your child going to take the A-level or the AS level? Because the courses are different and they are assessed differently. If your child is taking Biology UK A-level, they will study for 2 academic years typically and take all of the examinations at the end. It is not possible to split them like the example I just gave with the Cambridge A-levels. So you would take all 3 examinations at the end of your second year of study and receive your full A-level. If you choose to study the AS UK Biology, you take your exam at the end of the first year, but it cannot be added if you want to continue on to A-level. You'll end up retaking it at the end of the second year. The international A-levels for Pearson are modular, and this means that they are closer to the Cambridge International A-levels that I described, but can be split even further. So Cambridge International A-levels comprise of, for the full A-level, 6 papers, and those papers can be taken at the stages that suit you. So you can take them one at a time, effectively, if you desire. I say that the majority of the students still split it, so they take their 3 AS papers at the end of year 12 and the 3 A-level ones at the end of year 13. But there is more flexibility with those. I hope that covers everything. There's often follow-up questions after that, but I know our admissions team would be happy to help with those if an inquiry form is submitted.
Lovely, thank you, Ruth. Can students start at Wolsey Hall at any time of the year?
Yeah.
Yes, they can. I think Ruth mentioned right at the beginning, northern and southern hemispheres, and saying typically, you know, there's a starting point August, September, and another starting point kind of January, February. We don't work in that way because we are not timetabling live lessons. It means that you have the ultimate flexibility to start at any time of year, because the equivalent of that online lesson, instead of having to log in at 9 a.m. To listen to a teacher talk at you for 40 minutes, you have access to the videos on the course itself, so you can watch them at the right time for you when you are studying. So it means that you can start any time that you want to in the year, and you can structure the pace to suit your personal circumstances at home.
Lovely, thank you. So as we're running out of time, I'd just like to let you know how you can find out more if you still have any questions about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall, or if obviously you'd like to discuss your child's studies in detail with one of our admissions team. If so, please complete an inquiry form by pressing on the Contact Us button at the top right on the Wolsey Hall website, and then click on the More Information or To Enrol button. Our admissions team will then send you some course information and arrange a meeting or phone call with you, during which they can give you specialist advice about subjects and course levels. Admissions might recommend some online ready tests or placement checks, as we've mentioned as well, to help you to find the most appropriate level of study for your child. Finally, I'd like to extend a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. We hope you found the session useful and that it has given you a good understanding of homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. If you have any further questions, please do go to our website and submit an inquiry form. You can see the link on the screen in front of you as well, and our admissions team will be delighted to help you. So once again, a big thank you to everyone and have a lovely rest of the day.